Adventures near and far, searching for all the wonderful things that all the different lands have to show. This is Archeos Society, and we are Nerds of the West, and this is our thoughts on this reskin of Ethnos. We, the people who are going to be talking about this game. My name is Tom. We have a Sean.
I'm an explorer.
We have a Beck.
Blub.
And we have a Lachlan.
I would have come close to at least second in our playthrough.
It would have been so much fun. This is a set collection game, but Lachlan, what has this game going on that makes it special and worth checking out, possibly?
So, this is a set collection game, and the aim of the game is to get the most victory points. You get victory points by moving up onto these different tracks and also scoring a couple of points in between the rounds as well. The game ends, or the round ends, when 3 monkeys are drawn, and you can, on your turn, do one of 2 things. A, draw a card from the deck, or draw from the display. The second action you can do is play or go on an expedition, which you need to form a set of cards, which can be in the same suit, so they've all got different abilities, or go through colors. So this one, for example, is led by the guide, and it is all pink, whereas this one is the photographer, and it's all photographers. And that is how you play an expedition, and those will score you points at the end of the season. And we've just played a round of it, or a game of it, and it was very intense, very cutthroat.
We'll go into all the points on all the different abilities and how that changes what cards you're looking for, but I love a game where the end isn't known for sure. It is so tense and so much fun. It just adds that little bit of spice where, because the 3 monkeys are in the bottom half of the deck and it's all shuffled, you don't know where they're going to be, and we got it pretty early most times.
Yeah, all 3 seasons were
felt early.
Yeah, but that push your luck, though, is what really puts you on the edge of your seat and can make and break your round, for sure.
Beck, what did you like about the leaders we played with?
As in, like, the expedition leaders?
Yeah, the different choices you had for suits and the powers it gave you.
I think sometimes in games where there are different abilities, those abilities are hit and miss.
Move back so your microphone.
Right. With this game, the thing I really like is that all of the leaders you can play with, obviously barring the student because they're literally students and they are just cannon fodder. It just feels like all of the abilities that you can choose to play with add something to the game, no matter how you choose to do it. So like the botanist, you just immediately get 2 points when you manage to claim it. The physician lets you keep cards in your hand. The guide helps you move up a track like faster, and then the photographer just counts towards endgame scoring. And it just feels like one of those things where no matter what you're playing, it's still going to be helpful to you in some way.
I felt that the pilot was incredibly strong, personally. Like, I was always looking for a chance to grab a pilot and go up on something on one of these tracks. Specifically, everything else I was like, okay, this is what's in my hand. This is what I can do with it, rather than aiming for a specific strategy from one of the leaders.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the pilot is the outlier where it was too strong, but otherwise we had really good synergy to play different tracks. So I played heavily on the purple track, but I used a lot of pilots to do that. But not to say that I also used a lot of physicians, which was really good.
I think physicians early game was so good.
But the physician in combination with the red track, which is the Chitsu,
so that's the other thing.
Draw cards instead. It's like,
not only are there special abilities for all the different cards, and there are multiple in the box that you can change in and out as you need, each different side of these tracks has an ability. We're playing the base game, so it only has the one ability, and taking advantage of that to, as you say, with the position, keep cards in your hand and then draw up extra, I think got me ahead a few times.
Yeah, and then using the guide in conjunction with the pink track would be really strong, because the pink track has the highest value at the end in the scoring
it actually doesn't.
Section.
Green is higher.
Sure, but it's also the jumps that it makes, though, right? So, like, it might be a little bit easier, points. But then to get from 6 cards is incredibly hard.
Like, I don't think we played a set higher than 5 all game.
No, and that was super difficult to do. I think I hindered myself a little bit when I was doing suits and not colors, because colors is a lot easier because it gives you options to do other things, but then it locks you to a track unless you have a pilot.
But then on the flip side of that, sometimes you get stuck out of the colors, because in the playthrough we just did, I spent so long with like 2 or 3 pink cards in my hand and I just needed one more. And they weren't coming out and they were getting pulled by other people. And it eventually just hit a point in which I was like, I have a better chance of being able to do what I need to do if instead of aiming for the color, I go for the set because I see the cards I need right there. So it's one of those things where you just have to kind of weigh up what's in your hand, how much is left of the deck, and what is likely to come out.
Well, not only what's likely to come out, Sean, you got bit by having too many cards in your hand early. And it's a little bit to wrap your head around with discarding after you've played.
Yeah, so I think that for me is the crux of this game. Where the game really shines is you drawing up your cards, making your set in your hand, getting ready to play that big play. But like, as you see, if you watch through the playthrough, I completely forgot about the other half of it where I had gone, okay, cool, this is a cool set. It wasn't even really that big of one. I think it was 3 cards. The other 7 or 6 or however many I had, a huge amount went straight into the display for you guys to then choose from.
But it caught everyone out, though. Like, we were all just like, cool, I've got 2 different options. Like, I've got 3 here and 3 there. And it's like, am I going to be able to make this a 4? Am I going to be able to make this one a 4? Am I going to, like, which one's better? And, like, what track is that going to move me up on?
And eventually the hand limit catches up to you.
And then you're just like, I'm running out of time because I'm running out of hands and I'm going to have to discard stuff.
And you have to make the decision. Would you rather make this set and get rid of the cards you have left in your hand? Or do you want to try and get that better set and then get rid of everything else?
On top of that, early game versus late game, both within the round, because early game in the round, you can bank up a lot of cards and get a big set, hopefully, and then before the monkeys come out. But also in later seasons, earlier seasons, playing some quick early little sets to get yourself up on some tracks, and then in later seasons, focusing in on those, like the way that ebbs and flows as to what cards you're looking for and what you're holding on to was super fun to me.
Well, I think the replay value of it's going to be amazing, right? Because you've got the double-sided, so you could play some tracks on some sides. You could play all of them on the B side, on the advanced side, but then you've got the different roles. There's a bunch of roles we didn't play with, and there's other special boards for particular cards. But I would definitely like to see this played without the pilot and another card come in, and then it would be more even spread for not being able to, king make with the pilot. I think that'd be really good. Going back to Beck's point.
Just so you know, there's 12 different roles in the game. So there's another 6 in the box that we haven't even looked at yet.
Yeah, which would be great to see
use
the
them
combination.
in any combination, yeah.
And like going back to Beck's point where it's like, pilots are really strong to move you up on a track. You could use pilots in a different color to get you up on the pink track instead of using the pink.
Yeah.
Or just moving up on multiple other tracks instead of just trying to go for the one. Like, I didn't have the issue with pinks because I wasn't going for pinks at all. I didn't move on the pink at all, but I was the only one moving up on the purple.
I think that was really interesting, though. You targeted purple really strong, but I think there is just as much strategy in going a little bit in everything than there is in targeting one color specifically. You can get enough points everywhere that I don't think there is one game or one strategy because of the randomness of the cards that are coming out, how all the different abilities interact, that is going to be ever stronger than another. It's a game of adapting to how everything's going on.
I feel like this game is one of those ones where your strategy is kind of picked for you early game. And it's because the first time cards are dealt out, you're given a card. I'm not gonna lie, if I had a green position in my hand when I was first going, I'd look at the display. If there were any more green cards, I'd pick that. And then, because I would have a green set first, I would go up on the green track. So because this is so luck-based, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's nice having a bit of direction going into a game and not just being like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Like, being able to have your hand kind of pulled forward a little bit to be like, well, this is what I'm going to do, and then expand from there, I think is actually quite good.
That caught me out a couple of times because, like you said, you're going for colors, whereas I had a lot of rounds where I was doing sets instead of colors because I would pick up things that people didn't want, where it's like a lot of people are looking for pilots. So I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I do just do students, or I was really tempted to do a whole thing of students just
to get both points.
Because if you could get 6 students, then it's 12 points. You don't move up on a track, but hell yeah. 7 cards of students would have been, not relatively easy, but yeah. But you do have that push and pull. But that caught me out as well because it'd be like, I'm trying one way and then no one's putting into the display. We're only top decking at this point, and it's like, I could be waiting like 4 rounds before I get the card, and I'm just on a whim.
I'm super keen to play this at 6 and see how quickly the game moves at 6 as people draw cards, play cards more and more.
True that. I think there'll be more in the display, but then the deck will run down way faster.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because another point that I want to bring up is the whole taking from the display and really not letting the display actually whittle down.
Yeah.
There were so many times that I was like, you know what, I just want cards in display because I don't want to go into everybody drawing 2 cards out of the deck, because that will just rush the end of the game so much faster. I want to have the chance to figure out my cards, get them into the right sets and play them opportunely. So I really I think something that we didn't do, because we just gunned for 2 cards quite a lot, being able to draw 2 cards from the deck, where you could only draw 1 from the deck if you had cards in the display. I think on a larger play account, because of the potential of how fast it can go, a lot of people will really be... The people that have played it before will know that isn't a good thing. You want to... If you're not in a position to win... Like, I know that you got it down to no cards in display, so you could start pushing the end of the game. That's the ebb and flow that'll happen.
I just like that there's those choices there to do that.
Yeah.
I would equate this to my favorite game, which is Race for the Galaxy, because this, unlike Race for the Galaxy, only has 2 values for a card, whereas Clank and Race, the cards have 3 value. So it's like the card, the color, and the ability, right? So 3 different things, which is using the action economy. Whereas this game only has the 2 cards, but you have to discard them. You can't get attached to it. You're always drawing and playing, and it's just your hand is just the vehicle to get you to the end of the line. And in Race for the Galaxy, if you're playing the military game, or you're playing like the red faction for that, then you are trying to just race the game. You're not trying to get high score value. You're trying to end the game as fast as possible, which can exactly what Tom did when he got into a good position.
Yeah.
Let's quickly touch on art and components before we put it on our ranking board. Thoughts?
One, I noticed it at some point. If you go back and watch the playthrough, you might see me go, oh. All of the colors correspond to art from the area they come from. So, basically, in Europe, you have a Celtic design. In Chichen Itza, you have sort of Central American designs. Machu Picchu, Southern American. Great Zimbabwe, African. This one was Oceanic, so that has
the
indigenous stuff. And then in Asia, it has a very Asian design. But the thing I love about it is the fact that it doesn't block out people that are colorblind. I love it because all of the patterns correspond to the areas that they belong in.
And that's on all the cards as well, which is really nice.
Yeah. Which is where we come into the little character things. So
Can't really call them meeples.
They're not really meeples. They are really
They're
nice, and they're really interesting, and they're like
very distinct.
Very distinct.
Except
for the submarine.
Blimp. It's a blimp.
It's a blimp.
Stand by that.
So the thing I'm stuck with is whether it's actually supposed to sit like this. I legitimately...
It's a rocket ship.
If you remember fucking Atlantis, they have a blimp that looks just like this, but it's apparently a blimp. When you lay it on its side blimp-wise, it doesn't sit straight. When you lay it on its side submarine-wise, it does, but then it doesn't line up with anything else.
Man, honestly, I reckon when they were making it, they couldn't decide if they wanted it to be a blimp or if they wanted it to be a submarine, and it became both. And we talked about that at the very start of our stream as well. But they had to be non-distinct colours. They couldn't be the colours that were on the board because you're not the colours that are on the board.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Similar to Camel Up, you are not the camels, you're bidding on the camels. So
having the slightly different colours to what you might normally expect, I appreciate that. It's a good design choice.
Also, thematically, being a Indiana Jones adventure style, having a black ship, a tan car, stuff like that. Those sort of muted, more neutral colours make sense to be what they're going to be in real life, right?
It's
not
very
have
thematic.
A bright red ship or a bright blue.
Red October coming through.
my one criticism: all these boards are really nice, all the cards are really nice card stock, but this board is just that little flimsy cardboard.
Yeah.
And I personally like a bigger, thicker score track. It's just nicer to move around and interact with.
I think my sort of take on that comes into how the board is packed away, because one thing I really like is that this will all pack away really neatly, and what you don't have to factor in is one really big, thick cardboard piece that's just used for the score.
Nah, hot take. I think the circle is interesting, how you move around it, but I don't think it needs to be a circle by any means. It could have just been a regular track, and it would take up less space on the table when you've already got these boards that take up quite a room. You can rearrange it any way you want on the table, but there are other components. For a game that is cards and set collection, the other components like the score track, these could have been a little bit smaller so you can fit more things, because there's still like 2 or 3 more like things in the actual box that needs to fit on the table. And for us at Nerds, we definitely have to take it into consideration when we're setting up for a stream, because we're limited on space and we're also limited on where it can go that will look the best for you guys. Not necessarily for us, but it's like that could have just taken up less room from a functional point of view. But I do like the wraparound. That's kind of cool.
And the thing I actually just realized is the fact that the circle is a circle. Like, it seems a bit silly the way they've done it, because it actually snakes through, so it's like it's taking up the most space while also not. But when you get from 99, because of the way that it's set up, it goes out, you cross over 100, and then you go back to 101.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see someone get to 100 points.
I reckon you would. I reckon you could,
but
definitely.
It'd be tough. With all of that in mind, where would you rank it on our Nerds of the West ranking list? This is how we rank games, because 1 to 10 doesn't really make sense when you're ranking Ark Nova against Animal upon Animal
Society.
Against Archeos Society. So we rank games not based on any objective measure, but just, if given the opportunity, what we personally would prefer to play. And this game, I think with the right people, I could pull this out over and over again. This is quick. There is so much yelling for how casual a game it is. I would put this above the Wolves. Still under Fight the Blight, still under Too Many Cooks, because they're a little bit quicker for a casual audience, but above the Wolves.
Honestly, this is like straight into my new like intro games. I feel like it's so simple. Once you've got like the nuance down, it's
once
very
you learn what a guide and a photographer do, then it becomes a wide open game, doesn't it, Tom?
Yeah.
Even though it has to be explained to him like three times.
Yeah.
Once in the rules, once for the photographer, and then once for the guide.
So where would you put it then?
For me, I really enjoyed it, and I like the replay factor for it is a big one for me. And the turns are fast. Love the fact that the turns are fast. We were just drawing when you've got nothing to do, and then you're playing an expedition when you do have something to do. Like, there's no dilly-dallying about like, what am I going to do? Which made it fast, simple, but still complex. So I would say I would pull this out just under Dune Imperium.
Okay. Awesome.
How about you?
It's the right amount of crunchy for me without being too complicated. I would pull this out. Like, I would ask to play Archeos Society before I ask to play Too Many Cooks. Because while Too Many Cooks is good, it can get really frustrating when nobody's on the same page. This one, you're all working for yourselves. And it's, like, while it might be a little bit political, it's not so political in the way that Fight the Blight works.
Well, that's actually a good point that we didn't touch, right? So, player interaction. How do you feel?
The most you can do.
Very minimal, but you are hurting other people by taking certain cards. You can't hate draft, but you can either speed up or slow down the game.
The only situation in which we could have potentially hate drafted was when Lockie, on more than one occasion, skipped my turn entirely, picked a card, and I was like, well, now it's my turn. Which card am I going to pick?
Or you kind of know that that's what they're going for. So, like, everyone wants the pilot, which is where the interaction... Because, we yelled at each other quite a lot, considering that there's very little player interaction in this game.
So, for me, I think it's going to sit either... I think it's going to be around Dune Imperium, just because...
Above Fight the Blight and Too Many Cooks.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, for me, it's going to go on par with Dune Imperium. Like, I always tend to go towards a heavier game than a lighter game, personally. But like Lachlan said, I really think this is the type of game that if you've got some people that maybe not so board game minded or are just getting into the hobby, this is a great game to pull out and play with them because it is quick and easy. It's very simple. Yeah, it's a great entry.
It scratches an itch.
It does.
Yeah, I love finding new intro games that aren't the staples that you've played already.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm ready to play three or four more games of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the really annoying thing. Like, I want to play again, but we probably
We're out
won't.
of time. Well, let us know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with us? Would you check this game out? You can also see the full ranking list if you want in detail over on our website, nerdsofthewest.com. We have been Nerds of the West. We will see you next time, twitch.tv/nerdsofthewest. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next time.